I'm pretty new to the state librarian position. Just started in August, although I've been at the commission for 28 years and love the people that I get to work with. And my favorite part is getting out into all of Idaho and seeing the wonderful programs and services that you're offering to the people in your communities. I'm a native Idahoan, and that's my passion, is making libraries better. The mission of the commission is to build the capacity of libraries to better serve their communities, and that is what we're all about, and that's what we're going to kind of talk about today. So in your handouts, there is a handout about the difference between ICfL and the Idaho Library Association. And my good friend Larry Caldwell, trustee, said, I think there's still a lot of confusion about what ILA does as a member organization and what the Idaho Commission for Libraries does. So we're a state agency founded April 1st, 1901. The women of the Columbian Club had been sending books out through Stagecoach across the Idaho Territory, and in 1901 we became an official agency and had a state librarian, and still we're circulating those books through traveling cases sent all around the state, but we have kept working from there. But our mission is essentially still the same. We work to we provide training opportunities, we provide grant programs, we have a fabulous staff. We have 3 field consultants. Emily is in our northern office in Moscow. Patrick's not here right now, but he is in Idaho Falls. And then Kevin Tomlinson. Kevin, you want to stand up there? Yeah, he's your Southwest field consultant. And those folks are really available. Email them anytime, call them up. They will come out to your libraries. They will do trustee training. They'll work with your directors on succession planning, facilities planning. They are your go-to people for public library needs, and I'm thrilled that they're here today, and they'll be talking maybe a little bit later. So I'm just going to kind of dive in. What we're going to do today for this morning session is really introduce you to as many ICfL staff as possible, so you know who to contact. You can match up some of those names that you may read in newsletters with faces, and you'll be able to feel more comfortable giving them a call if you have questions about any particular services or programs that we offer at the commission. Dylan is our broadband consultant, and he's been with the commission for 2+ years and is doing a great job. So Dylan, do you want to share a little bit about what you do?
Thank you. Yeah, so hello, I'm the broadband consultant. So in a nutshell, I assist the libraries throughout the state with any technology or internet questions. And one of the big things I help with is the E-rate program. That's a program and we have a state matching program that basically, if your public library participates in those, your internet costs can be 100% covered. So happy to talk to you about that and what that program's like at a later point. But one of the programs I wanted to highlight is one we started last year and we're continuing this year. It's the Broadband Toolkit Improvement Plan, or BTIP for short. In a nutshell, this is a document that was designed specifically for small and rural libraries, though it can be used by any type of library, especially those without any kind of technical staff, to help better understand their technology and their broadband connections. So it's a document that you work through and you can use it to understand better what broadband technology your library already has, and what kind of improvements you can make with it. So you work through the workbook. If you sign up for the program, we have slots for 20 libraries this year. You just go on our website, sign up, and if you complete the workbook and an improvement plan, and I or any of the field consultants can assist you with that as well, you can receive $500 towards any improvements you want to make that you identify on your plan. So it's not too difficult way to get some money to improve your broadband or your technology at your library. So feel free to stop by our table later, or if you're here this afternoon and want to, I have a whole session about it, but you can also just talk to me anytime about it. So anyway, nice to meet you all. Thank you.
So Jeannie Standel is our school library consultant. She's also the award-winning Special Services to School recipient from that. And she's going to be talking about, is it still, can you hear me back there, Tammy? Yeah, much better? Okay. She's going to be talking about some new partnerships that we've developed. So, Jeannie, take it away.
Thank you. The newest partnership that we've been working on is with the Idaho Lottery Commission, and they're working with us to fund a program for elementary school libraries to be able to apply for $1,000 to $3,000 to buy books for their collections. We know that there's sort of a mismatch between kids when they're learning to read in the kindergarten, first and second grade. They need a lot of books to practice with, just like if you were learning to play basketball, you need basketball to practice with at home. Kids need books to practice reading with as well, but many school libraries do not have the funds to be able to buy the books for them all, to be able to take them home and read with their families. So that will help close that gap. We also have the mini grant program that we have run for about 7 or 8 years now. And schools apply. It's got the same goal, so that kids can take books home to read, with the ultimate goal of getting all kids reading on grade level by 3rd grade. Kind of waiting for my slides to come up.
Here we go.
Oh, there we go. So here's the lottery program. And the Lottery Commission opened up this program to their VIP members to be able to, so that they could contribute their points. It's a very complicated system, but they can contribute their points and fill up kind of a fund that then the school libraries can apply for. And this says $25,000, but I was notified just the other day that it's actually $30,000. They raised more than they thought. So hooray, thanks Idaho Lottery. And they will purchase books for their libraries. And here's the mini grants. So there are lots of kids that are happy with their books. And so the school libraries can apply for up to $5,000 in grant funds to buy fiction and nonfiction books for the elementary library collections, which is really important, again, for kids to be able to go home and read books with their families. So if there are no questions, I will pass the mic along.
Great. Randy Camp is our program supervisor. Randy, you want to talk about what you do?
One of the things I get to do that I love to do is talk about partnerships. So connecting libraries to local community members, other state agencies, local nonprofits, nurturing, starting, encouraging those relationships across those partnerships to impact communities, to better the lives of the folks in your area. And those partnerships can lead to those synergies of success. One program that we piloted this summer was with the summer internships, and several of you in the room, your libraries were part of that. $1,000 grant to hire a young person who was interested in possibly working in libraries, just to get that experience. What does it mean to work in a library? What are the various roles librarians play in the community? Getting out in the community and working with a partner to develop a project. So over the course of the summer, 9 libraries went through this program. An example from Chalice and Donley, thank you Sherry, to work with the intern, mentors, and those partners. We've had a conversation among the mentors and the interns in that group, and look forward to running the program again next year. A program we're excited to keep going, to start around a history harvest. So the idea of local artifacts, historic artifacts, someone's scrapbook, letters from grandma and grandpa and the pioneers, photographs, audio recordings of conversations. How do we preserve those for future use? What are some of the techniques to make those available to a wide range of folks? So what the Commission's done is purchase some equipment, like the image on the right, of a copy stand and a camera and a computer to capture that picture, to capture that autographed letter, etc. And then to do some training along with the state archives and their experts on preserving historic artifacts, to do some training with libraries, and then to actually pass that training on to local residents who have their own collections that they would like to digitize and make available to a wider range of folks. So we're looking forward to rolling out a pilot about that this fall and into the early winter, so look for that. Libraries as Launchpads is a program that has been piloted through some monies from the Institute for Museum and Library Services And the organization that started it is looking for additional funding from that federal agency to roll it out into more states. They've done it in Baltimore area and New Mexico. And so Idaho is on the list in that next proposal. So there's not money yet, but there's a proposal out to the federal agency for monies to provide a multi-week boot camp around entrepreneurship in local communities. And this is something that the governor touts from on high of what are the opportunities for local people in small communities to start businesses, to be homegrown, to come back or stay in their community by starting and running a business primarily through some online techniques, et cetera. And so there's a curriculum, there's a training, there's a mentor over multiple weeks in the library to do that training, to provide that capacity for local individuals to start up a company or to grow a small company that's already been started. So we're hopeful that the monies will be there, and Idaho will be part of that next pilot project called Libraries as Launchpad. So look forward to that too.
Randy's our workforce development person, so if you have questions about partnerships or opportunities in your community, please contact Randy. He'll help you out. Jennifer is one of our youth services consultants, and she's here to talk about some of the new initiatives going on in that area.
Thanks. So I've been at the commission for a little over a year, and previous to that, I spent 10 years in public libraries here in Idaho, and I really benefited from a lot of the professional development opportunities that I had in the public library that the commission provided. So I'm really excited to offer the whole state part of a state, actually a nationwide initiative to improve teen services and our services to our teenage customers and patrons in partnership with YALSA and also the chief officers of state library associations. So Stephanie actually participates in that, and it's all the people in her position across the nation. So we're partnering to improve the quality of teen services. I'm excited about this because we haven't done any targeted teen services trainings for quite a while. So I actually was just in Seattle this past weekend getting trained, and we will be implementing these trainings throughout the state in the upcoming year. So I have a co-presenter that I'm presenting with, and we're hoping to hit all the parts of the state and offer free trainings to library staff members in this area over the next year. So very excited about that. Make sure you keep your ears open for those opportunities because we don't want anyone to miss out on, again, free professional development. I am, as part of the youth services team, our group is also focused on school readiness. As you may know, it's really difficult to find quality preschool opportunities in Idaho. In many communities, there may not be a preschool, or if there is, there's a huge waiting list to get in them, or it's cost prohibitive for some families to send their children to preschool. And this is where libraries can really fill that gap and support families in helping get their children ready for school. So as library people, you know, our role is to improve the lives of community members. And so this is one way that we can help support families. So we've come up with an assessment tool that we're actually diving a little deeper into later in a session this afternoon. We call it the Kindergarten Readiness Challenge. And it's a workbook that libraries can go through to assess where their communities are at in terms of school readiness and how the library can help improve school readiness numbers in the community. So it's a really comprehensive tool, and at the end of it, you should have enough information, data, thinking behind it to come up with a good plan for your library, build a needs statement if there are some grants that you can apply for, and then we are able, for the last 2 years, to provide kindergarten readiness grants to some libraries. We had a great pilot year. Some really wonderful successes across the state. This year, when we opened that grant application up, we had $160,000 in requests from 22 libraries across the state. We only had $60,000 to award. But we were happy to award those to the libraries that we could. But that type of opportunity is available out there in lots of different forms. So our hope is that by going through the assessment process, you can really position yourselves as ready to apply for those opportunities. And I want to mention one last fantastic professional development opportunity. November 6th and 7th is what we call Read to Me Rendezvous, and it's a youth services focused training that is free for Idaho Library staff. So we will pay for your travel, we will pay for your lodging, we will feed you, and also we're going to give you 2 days of really excellent youth services focused training. The first day is actually, we're really excited about. We're bringing in 2 experts on diversity in children's literature, and we hope that that will be really impactful to a lot of librarians across the state. The second day, we're going to focus more on school readiness and also some early STEM concepts. So we've got a lot going on. We have a lot of opportunities. If you have any questions about these, stop by the ICfL table. We'll talk your ear off about them. And we hope to see many of your libraries at any of these trainings coming up.
Next up is Dina Brown. Dina is our emerging trends consultant at the commission, and has also been at the commission for about the same time as Jennifer, about 2 years. So
Just one. Seems like 2.
she's so awesome.
My work anniversary was actually, whoa, this just got way louder, yeah? Okay.
That's good. That's good.
My work anniversary was just last week, so yay. So I'm Dina Brown. Prior to being at the commission, I was at Boise State University, and before that, I've worked at a variety of academic and public libraries, so I've kind of got some insight into both sides of that. So as the emerging trends consultant, I was hired, it's a new position at the commission, and so some kind of big bucket areas that I was tasked with taking a look at are continuing the Make It at the Library program and Makerspace and STEM initiatives, and taking a look at adult services, and emerging trends. So that isn't always necessarily technology focused. Notice that it's emerging trends and not emerging technology is my title, because sometimes trends emerge that have nothing to do with technology, and the commission wants to make sure that there's someone there that's got that on their radar to address. So one of the trends that I was noticing over the past year as I went around the state talking to libraries at trainings is that a lot of libraries either don't have the funds to buy emerging tech, or they just straight up don't have the space to store it. Some of this stuff takes up a lot of space, and if you're only using something once a year for a program, you don't really want to have to put it away in a closet where it's probably, honestly, going to get lost. So one of the things that I'm looking at doing is creating a series of kits that we're calling Beyond Books, that are kits full of technology and resources that libraries are going to be able to borrow. So the 2 that we're going to roll out first are, there's a VR one, and I've got an example of a VR headset over here. How many of you have done VR before? Raise your hand. If you haven't and you want to give it a try, we've got a couple of headsets set up at the ICfL desk all day today, so go give it a shot. So this is a standalone model, which is awesome. You don't have to have a giant laptop, there aren't any cables that go with it. It's battery powered, it's super easy to get started with. So. And we also have the, the googly eyes on front to make it a little more fun for people watching. So the VR kit would have a couple of headsets like this, and another headset that is a slightly higher model. And then another kit that we're looking at putting together is one for button makers. The button maker machine themselves are really can be cost prohibitive. The materials, the consumables themselves are a little cheaper, and that's maybe a little easier for libraries to be able to fund that. So we've got a couple of button makers and die cuts at the commission that we're going to let libraries borrow as well. Those are the first 2 kits that we're going to start off with. It's just kind of a pilot. Then there's some other kits we're going to add. So the one that Randy mentioned, the History Harvest, is one that is going to kind of eventually be part of this system. We're going to keep the NASA kits going if you haven't heard about those. And hoping to roll out the button maker and the VR kits around the new year. So stay tuned for that. There's a lot of systems we have to get in place before we can get those out. And it's a year of VR. So the other thing that we're doing is we're partnering with the STEM Action Center as part of the Make It program, and we're going to be offering VR training. And this is not just how to use VR, it's how to actually create something with VR. So as the commission, we're wanting to help build the capacity of libraries to be able to be sharing their stories via VR, not just consuming VR. And we want them to be able to pass those skills along to people in their communities. VR is something that is increasingly going to become part of workforce development. So it's something that a number of corporations are actually starting to use already for training, whether it be that it's an opportunity to provide training to a larger group of people rather than having each of those people have to come to a separate training, or thinking about safety issues. So if an employer is needing to train staff on how to do something safe, but in trying to train them how to do something safe, they would potentially injure themselves. So I don't know, think about forklift driver training. If you don't know how to drive a forklift, jumping in one and starting to drive it, you're potentially going to hurt yourself or something else or a building. But if you can do that virtually first, build up your confidence, and then go and actually do it, is a way that workforce development is using VR. And then also just for storytelling. So whether you want to give a tour of your library and have that available online for people to walk through before they come to your building. You might have historical sites in your community. You might have a group of kids, maybe there's a skate park in your town and your kids love the skate park and they want to create a video about that in VR for people to be able to experience. So the training is going to be something that's available to any publicly funded library in the state, and hoping to roll that out in the spring. So if you have any questions about any of that stuff, or if going forward there's something that you're like, there's this new thing I heard about and I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I want to talk to somebody about it. Hey, I'm your person. Great, thanks.
Allison is our Lilly librarian, and she coordinates all the work on the Lilly databases. Hopefully you are familiar with those, but if you aren't, please talk to Allison. We have some fairly new additions to our database, and it's one of our biggest programs. We spend over $1 million on the databases with state funds and a little bit of federal funds, so we certainly want them to be well used and to have all Idahoans know and understand those. So Allison is your go-to person for Lilly resources. And Sue is not in here, so Sue Walker is our Talking Book Services librarian, and she works with that program. She also coordinates some of the work that we do with Volunteer Match, and we have a volunteer coordinator, Colleen, at the Commission for Libraries, and she's working on that too. So those are some of the things that we do. If you are interested in getting help with your volunteer services at your library, Sue and Colleen would be happy to help you work on that area. We have a grant that's ending with Volunteer Match, and we're still kind of working out some of the details on that, but that is one of the programs that we offer. And then I'm pleased to welcome Tammy Hollyhouse up to the stage. Tammy is our CE consultant, and she also worked with Dylan Baker, so Dylan can maybe come up too. We had a fabulous Idaho Futures Camp this summer, and they're going to talk about that and some of the next steps that we're doing as a result of that.
Great, thank you. So we held this summer a cool event. It was called the Idaho Futures Camp. We had over 70 library staff members from different types of libraries and holding different positions within the library. Everybody got this amazing t-shirt. So that's kind of the highlight right there, right? And this amazing journal, right? We spent 2.5 days at the College of Idaho that we took over their campus. We stayed in the dorms. Some of us had ice packs the next 2 days. I don't know if you've spent time in a dorm bed recently, but it's quite an experience. So during that time, we had plenty of time to be together, to create bonds, and we tried to look at future-leaning topics. So as Dina mentioned, we're starting the virtual reality kits, the VR kits. That was a topic that we made sure people had plenty of time to immerse themselves in. Other topics that we dealt with, something called embedded librarianship. Has anyone heard of that? That's where librarians, library staff, are going outside of their library to make connections within the community. It's a best practice of libraries. It's something that's very important because you as trustees know that we need strong connections within our communities to support our libraries, to use our libraries, and to understand how valuable libraries are as a social connector and sort of an anchor within our community. So that was a topic that we dealt with. We had a scientist come in and talk about research that he is doing in the field of merging DNA and engineering and the capabilities of storing data. That might be our library records, that may be our historical records that we harvest for our history project, storing that information on DNA. It's extremely easy to replicate. It's easier to store than a lot of the technology that's in place before. These were a couple examples. Dylan, can you think of a couple more?
Yeah, we had some other dynamite presentations. There was a lot about inclusivity, reaching other members of your community, and let's see what else. Gosh, we had so much.
All kinds of things.
Yeah.
We talked about dealing with behavioral health issues that come into the library, particularly in public libraries. We serve anyone in our community. Oftentimes we are serving persons who have mental illnesses, maybe are experiencing homelessness or some other kind of trauma. So those are things that libraries needs a skill set to help us with.
I think there was something on libraries as social connectors, something that someone might be talking about this afternoon, Tammy.
That's true. If any of you want to skip out of Trustee Connection, I'm going to get out of Emily's. I'll be presenting on, I don't want her to throw something at me, something on libraries as social connectors, because we know that libraries are providing essential key places for people to come together, make social connections, because it can make an incredible difference physiologically, sociologically, and psychologically in people's lives.
Yeah, and we talked, so there were several other presentations, and this whole journal is available on the Futures Camp website. We also had some amazing keynote speakers, and fortunately Donna recorded all those for us. So if you would like to watch any of those, even if you weren't there, we had Marcellus Turner, the director of Seattle Public Library, talk about how he does planning at his library and what kind of the focus is.
And how he also pokes the bear. It was like the key phrase. So you'll want to watch this and listen for poke the bear. That's the phrase, poke the bear.
We had Miguel Figueroa, who leads ALA, the American Library Association's Center for the Future of Libraries. He came and talked to us about how to do some planning, how to keep your eye on the horizon for trends, and how to evaluate those, how to use them. We had Rolf Appel from former director of the Aarhus libraries in Denmark, who is currently at the University of Washington's Information School as their kind of practitioner in residence. He came and gave some amazing talks. There was over, I think, 200 images that he showed in his slides, and you can look at those, you can hear what he said. So all these keynotes are up on our Futures Camp website directly from our homepage. And I think the other thing we've been doing kind of to follow up the Futures Camp is we've been wanting to keep that energy and momentum going, getting people talking. So we've been having what we're calling fireside chats. So those are virtual things that anyone can connect to from throughout the state. We have once a month. They're running through December. And we've had some great participation in that, lots of discussion about things that are affecting libraries right now, what folks have been using that they got out of the Futures Camp to make presentations to their stakeholders, to their city, to their public. So those have been really great.
What we hear frequently is having time together people that work in libraries, trustees, time together is huge, and it's very difficult to do that. Many of you know that Idaho is geographically dispersed, and it's often hard to get together with your colleagues, right? Your peers, other trustees, other library directors. And having that time together is really crucial. So we would invite you to attend a fireside chat, or, you know, find other ways for you to connect with us. We're kind of hanging out and paying attention to what you're saying, being intentional about what your library's needs are, what you need in order to better support your community in the library. And because we want to be even more intentional about that, we are launching a new service, right?
Yeah.
We are. And it is called?
It's called We're Listening.
We're Listening, right?
So part of that is we have these guys always bring props, and I never know what they're gonna pull out of their bags and demonstrate. So very clever.
Oh, mine's upside down.
Thank you, Dylan and Tammy, for bringing your props.
It's an ear.
Yeah. So we have a survey that's out there now. We're launching this virtual listening tour from November through May. We'll have sessions each month, and then we're going to start that even right now. We're going to also do some pop-up sessions and be visiting some of your libraries.